It's bad. It's bad.
Pete, aka Pete Clough, Pete the Meat, and Cyril, the 1930s Arsenal left back, played a big part in our youth from the day he arrived on the scene at Downing School in Year 9. And he's been a great friend ever since. Together, the three of us wanted to share just a little few anecdotes or two with you all. Yeah, just a few little stories and so on. But before we do, I firstly wanted to say I thought the ceremony was really, really lovely. Undoubtedly, Kate, you look stunning today. You really do. And
hey!
And Pete, you're a knob.
Yeah. Wrong page.
Pete, you're a noble example to grooms everywhere. Anyway,
please tell me that was written in there.
Pause for that.
So this is actually tied in quite nicely with a few references that you made, Tony. The first story is called Pete and the Skateboard Attack. Pete was always a bit of an angry young man at school, and we had a number of clashes in our youth, especially given I wasn't the most passive of kids myself. However, I'll never forget the one incident in particular. A load of us had decided to camp out on the greens in Hassocks, and Pete and I had a little bit of a falling out the night before, and I'd actually been told he'd gone home. We had two tents pitched sort of a metre apart from each other, and I was in one ranting about how angry I was with Pete. I was actually slating him off to one of the girls in my tent at the time.
one of the girls in your tent.
Little did I know Pete hadn't gone home at all. He was laying a metre away from me in the next tent and had heard everything. We woke up the next morning, came out the tent, and there was Pete standing with a skateboard in his hands, staring at me with enraged eyes, foaming at the mouth. He hurtled towards me with the skateboard in a bid to literally take my head off, and I just ducked. In time I probably wouldn't be here today if I hadn't done. And a number of the girls actually had to step in and defuse the situation. True story.
They got whacked. No, they didn't.
And they were also not here today. I think this was the final act that really pushed him to get off the old steroids in the end, didn't it, Peter? Unfortunately, this isn't the only example of Pete and I clashing. Although there have often been flare-ups between us, and incidents have escalated, apologies would always be made, and yeah, we would move on. I recall one petty incident from our past. Pete called me stinky, and I called him stupid. He stole my Pokemon cards and I emptied his lunchbox on the ground. We both ended up crying and running home. But sure enough, the next day Pete emailed me from work and we resolved it.
Pete, Andy and I actually have a confession to make today that we'd like to get off our chest. And we feel in the spirit of the day, in the face of such overwhelming goodwill and generosity, that it's time to come clean, to fess up about what happened all those years ago, about what we did. This was the year 2001. We were 14, a Saturday night. Back in the days when we used to hang around Adastra Park discussing Wittgenstein and Nietzsche over the odd glass of sherry. Andy and I had arranged to meet you off the train. Tardiness is something even back then Pete loathed. That's why we knew we were playing with fire. You have to understand the risk involved in leaving someone like Pete waiting for over an hour. But we did. On a freezing October night, that's what we did. And here's why. This was the year of Crazy Town's Butterfly, Afro Man's Because I Got High. Our great friend Michael Wenham and his band Sum 41's In Too Deep. Limp Bizkit's My Way, Wheatus's Teenage Dirtbag. Shakira's Whenever, Wherever, and of course, Gone by NSYNC. I think you'll all agree, a great year for music. It's important to remember at this stage just how good a song NSYNC's Gone actually is.
Very good.
Timberlake's haunting lyrics echo across a synth and acoustic guitar groove, while bass, fatone, chassez and Kirkpatrick croon in falsetto over the gorgeous and ethereal chorus. The video is a tasteful sepia monologue that comments on man's desolation and loneliness. Pete, we left you in desolation and loneliness at Hassocks train station for over an hour. so we might hear this song come on MTV. We waited and waited, but it never arrived. Our excuse when we finally met you, that Pepper, my dog now long dead, had a thorn in her paw. And we had to prize it free. I don't think you believed us, I'm certain you didn't. So if you were ever wondering if over the last 12 years the memory of that dark and lonely night waiting for your two pals has ever resurfaced, now you know the reason why. NSYNC gone.
Alright, so we've got to credit Pete with you know, some pretty awesome qualities as well, I think, here. So, you know, he's undoubtedly highly intelligent. He's one of those people that, you know, didn't really need to revise, he never seemingly listened in class, yet he came out with top marks nonetheless. In fact, at the age of 14 years old, my dad used to regularly catch him reading the Financial Times in our house. True story. He's always been ahead of his years, to be fair. In fact, I hear Pete hit puberty as a toddler and looked 40 by the time he reached year 6. In fact, if you look at him now, if you gaze deeply into those troubled and myopic eyes, you'll see he contain the furrowed, withered features of an octogenarian.
Myopic.
That's right. I mean, one of my first memories of Pete was when he just arrived at Dowlands in year 9, and we were walking through modern languages, and a plucky young year 7 pupil inquired with him, "Sir, is this Miss Metal?" And he responded with, "Sorry mate, I'm in year 9. We were en route to French with Monsieur Hill, where we would spend the majority of our lessons researching the French translations of our rude words like devant derrière, which meant front bottom. I seem to remember even Monsieur Hill enjoyed that one. Nowadays we spend the majority of our time fulfilling our lifelong ambitions of being blokes in pubs, frequenting the Poacher or the New Inn in Hurstcliffe Point, and up until recently despairing about Arsenal Football Club. Yes. Debating, along with Joe Banfield, salient topics such as Wenger out, Sham Ankle Bentner. Dennis Bergkamp, could he be the greatest player to ever play in the Premier League? Recently, however, the outlook appears a little bit more positive for the Arse. We're already clearly destined to finish above Spurs this season. Which brings me on to Kate and Pete. Kate, a Spurs fan, and Pete. Clearly it's serious when this rivalry can take a back seat, and whilst I'm sure they've nearly come to blows, possibly during that 4-4 draw a couple of seasons ago, they're clearly perfectly suited for them. And they have had some fantastic times travelling the chateaux of France, enjoying fine French cheese and wines. I think they both enjoy reading a bloody good book, sitting in, watching Game of Thrones, a jolly good pub quiz, pubs in general, and debating conservative politics. Kate, you look absolutely fantastic. You've chosen a superb venue, and I know that the two of you are going to continue to make each other happy. So, on that note, I'd like to raise a toast. Kate and Pete. Kate and Pete.
Kate and Pete.